All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Before we start, I'm just going to introduce the people standing next to me to my right and to my left, and then I'm going to turn the press conference over to my Undersheriff, Jeff Round, who will get into the details of why we're all here today. So to my left, our District Attorney, Karen Hagan, my Chief Deputy of Road Patrol, Chief Pat Mazowick, Undersheriff Jeff Brown, Captain Kevin Herrick in charge of the investigation unit, Lead Investigator Kyle Rossi, and the investigation team is in the back. So I will turn this over to my Undersheriff Jeff Brown. You what?
Thanks, Sheriff.
You're welcome.
We have a significant announcement to talk about today in a criminal case that's been widely publicized in the area. Before I get into the details, I'll recap the case and talk about the latest development that we're announcing today. We do have paper press announcements that we will have ready for you here up front, but it'll all be in your email box also when the press conference is over with. Before I get into the details of the case, I just want to thank Investigator Kyle Rossi, who's the lead investigator on this case, standing on the end to my right, and the culmination of the rest of the investigation team and Sheriff's Office members that worked on this case. These cases are extremely difficult, especially those that have children, and these guys did a phenomenal job to reach where we are today. I'll also say that the case is ongoing and still developing with information, so certainly I will leave room to take questions, but there may be questions I can't answer. On February 19th, 2025, at about 8:36 p.m., we received a call at 231 Main Street, Apartment 4 in the village of Corinth, for a 3-year-old female, Jocelyn Diluski, who had difficulty breathing. EMS transported her to Surgical Hospital where, despite life-saving measures, she was ultimately pronounced dead. At the time of the call, there were 4 other minor children in the home with the parents, Matthew and Samantha Diluski. The residence was found to be in extremely unsanitary conditions, including evidence of significant bug infestation. The children were relocated to live with a relative. A search warrant was executed on the residence on February 20th. The postmortem was conducted at Surgical Hospital on February 21st by Dr. Kristen Landy. The cause of death was ruled as a homicide due to complications of acute and chronic neglect. Investigators noticed that the deceased had body lice as well. The residence was condemned by code enforcement officer in the village of Corinth on February 21st. Samantha and Matthew Diluski were charged with 5 counts of endangering the welfare of a child on February 21st, 2025, and arraigned before Judge Woodcock in the Corinth Town Court. Both were released to pretrial services with orders of protection issued to stay away from all the children. On February 26th, at about 2:39 p.m., we received a call from a citizen that Matthew and Samantha Diluski are at the residence in Corinth with the children and were violating the temporary order of protection. Patrols arrived and took both of the parents into custody. Matthew and Samantha Diluski were charged with 4 counts each of criminal contempt in the 2nd degree. They were arraigned again before Judge Woodcock in the Corinth Town Court and remanded to the county jail. Both have since bailed out. Today's update. As a result of the investigation, on today's date, Matthew and Samantha Diluski were arrested in Glens Falls and charged with 1 count of criminally negligent homicide, Class E felony each. The definition of criminally negligent homicide is a person is guilty of criminally negligent homicide when, with criminal negligence, he causes the death of another. Both were arraigned by Judge Woodcock in the Corinth Town Court and released to pretrial services. Their next appearance is scheduled for May 13th at 1 p.m. in the Corinth Town Court. Both are currently represented by the Saratoga County Public Defender's Office. Again, I'll remind you that it's an open and active investigation. We do have a development of the case, an arrest today of criminal negligent homicide of both parents that we wanted to announce to anyone and certainly answer any questions I can. If there's questions for the district attorney, she's here as well. Kobe?
It's been a while since the girl died. How difficult was this case to make for you, and why this time period?
Sure. We recently received the death certificate. Certainly, that's an essential piece with charging and the death of another. The death certificate did list the cause of death as a homicide due to multiple factors, as I said earlier, acute and chronic neglect, which holds those parents responsible for that death. That's what resulted in our case today. We do have enough evidence to charge this case today, which is the reason we filed the charges.
Why was it so important for you to pursue this case so vigorously?
Kumi, it's the most vulnerable among us. A 3-year-old child. The people that most should take care of this child did not, and that's the reason we doggedly these investigators worked on this case. And can't release any of the evidence, to be honest with you. But what I can say is that it was a significant investigation involving all types of investigative techniques that led us here today.
How are the other children doing?
They are currently still not with their parents, and as far as I'm aware, doing well.
How did she die?
That's how the death certificate is listed. Due to lack of care and multiple factors. I won't get into all what those factors are, but certainly caused her body to stop working.
Was there any intervention you think that could have been to try to prevent this from happening?
Sure, absolutely, and that is in fact why we're arresting these parents, because if there had been an intervention, she'd be alive today.
Was there?
I'm sorry. A family member told us that Child Protective Services had been aware of the Diluskis for years, possibly before the death of the child. Just wondering how you have communicated with other social services in this, and the degree to which you can speak to how they were on the radar of not just law enforcement, but like officialdom more broadly.
Sure.
Before February.
Yeah, we investigated this case like we would any other child with a multidisciplinary team involving the sheriff's office investigators and the investigators that work for the social services, the caseworkers. So, yeah, fully cooperative. We work together on this case. As far as, what their case history is, you'd have to ask them. I'm not familiar with all their case history with the family. But, yeah, we work together on this investigation.
Are they still in jail?
They were released to pretrial services, which is through our probation office. So you have something? I see your mouth moving.
Where did they actually live? They lived on the second floor, in the front, back. Where was the apartment they lived in?
It was apartment 4, and it was on the right side, second floor.
Outside second floor. Is that the one with the staircase going up, or is it further back?
The one with the staircase.
Okay. What's the conditions like inside?
I can't even describe them to you. It get condemned, so if that gives you any idea.
I mean, was there like food and crap and was this
All the above,
All the above.
deplorable. Anybody else?
How many additional years are the parents going to face behind bars now as a result of these new charges being brought to them?
I'll refer to our district attorney.
So the charges filed today are Class E felonies, which carry a maximum sentence of 1 1/3 to 4 years in prison.
Are they living in Glens Falls now?
They were staying in Glens Falls, yeah. That's where we located them. Anybody else?
Just to confirm, what was the number of children that they had total besides the child in question that passed away?
Without that child?
Yes.
3 alive children currently? Or is there 4? 4.
There's
Yeah.
4 total with 4 children.
all biologically theirs?
All biologically moms.
Yes.
Yeah, all of which Samantha's children, the 2 younger of which would be Matthew's children. If I'm saying that correctly.
When you say the investigation continues, are you also looking at other people potentially, or are you looking at further charges for this couple?
Globally, all of that, sure. Yep.
Have you been in touch with the school? I don't know the ages of the other children, but certainly wouldn't ask, but have you been in touch with the school that those children attended about any possible warning signs that teachers or administrators may have witnessed in this run-up to it?
Sure, yeah, that's all part of the investigation. Yeah. Anybody else?
Were there any bruises on the other children, or any other such signs of abuse on the other children?
Yeah, that's certainly evidence gathering on our part. The children were all interviewed and examined, and that's one of the things that's ongoing with the investigation.
And those children in foster care, I would take it.
They're currently not with their parents anymore.
Do you have the ages of the children, or just a general range of where she was?
Yeah, they're not currently part of this case, so we're not getting into details of the other children.
And obviously, this case happened late February, and now it's May. I know you spoke before about this certificate playing a role in kind of the delay. Were there any other factors that may have played in the delay of, I guess, today, getting this out?
No, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't use the word delay. I would say that that's conducting an investigation, the evidence gathering, that takes the time, to build a case. Anyone else?
Were
Yes.
they living in that building apartment at the time, or was this a hangout, or who was living?
They were living there. The family was living there, all the children with the parents. Yes.
You mentioned the parents are out on bail. Is there any concern that they're going to attempt to be in contact with their other children again?
Certainly, we've arrested them for doing that in the past, so yeah, that's a concern.
Okay, and so are there any additional precautions being taken to protect those children additionally? And can you speak to what those might be?
There's an order of protection in place protecting the children from the parents, and certainly all those involved in them are aware that the parents are not supposed to have contact with those children. They're court ordered not to. So, Ikumi?
I'm sorry, the last time that we spoke, you said something about you were waiting for toxicology results. Were there any surprises that you got back since the initial news release that you had?
I wouldn't describe anything as a surprise. No.
And it was it was ruled a homicide by the medical examiner early on?
Well, we get informed of it when she issues a death certificate to us. So that was
Oh,
that
so
was
the death
that was of
certificate
recent.
was
Yep. The medical examiner doesn't determine that cause of death and fill out that death certificate until they've received all the information they need to conduct their investigation, which would include toxicology results and things like that. So it doesn't always come right away. They don't always rule that immediately after an autopsy. Sometimes they wait for testing.
And criminally negligent homicide, I was just wondering if you might want to speak to, why not manslaughter, why specifically that charge?
So criminally negligent homicide,
Sorry.
Criminally negligent homicide talks about a failure to perceive a substantial and unjustifiable risk, acting with criminal negligence. Manslaughter talks about reckless conduct. So the distinction between those two charges are a failure to perceive being criminal negligence versus engaging in reckless conduct. As the undersheriff has indicated, this case is still continuing in its investigation, and there may be other charges forthcoming.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I want to thank everybody for coming. Again, don't forget about a press release, and we'll have that sent out in your inbox also. But if you want a paper copy, they're here for you. Thanks
Do you have
everybody for coming.
mugshots?
What's that?
Do you have pictures?
Yeah, there's mugshots. You'll get them digitally too.
Say spell your name and state your position.
Sure.
One more time, please, on the mic.
Yep, no problem. Jeff Brown, Undersheriff, Saratoga County Sheriff's Office.